all of a sudden, everything shifts and they're like starting to freak out. Okay, so today we are talking about my birth story. My name is Des, if you don't know me. Welcome to my channel. So it started on a Thursday, which was the day before I went into labor. I went to the doctor's to get my checkup and I ended up being 2 centimeters dilated, which is, the opening is 2 centimeters wide. And then I was 50% effaced, which is halfway there. So I was looking good. And at this point I was 38 weeks and like 5 or 6 days. While I was at the doctor's, my midwife asked me if I wanted her to sweep my membranes. And I said, of course, let's do this because I want this baby out. And she swept them, which is where like she sticks her fingers in and then rubs inside the cervix, I think. I don't know exactly, but it freaking hurts. And she did that. So I went home and then me and my family went to eat Buffalo Wild Wings, which I had done with my previous pregnancy, like every week, at least once a week towards the end of my pregnancy. And so I was like, let's go, we gotta do this. I have 48 hours if the membrane sweeping works. So we go to sleep and I wake up at 1:30 in the morning and I'm having stomach pain and I'm like, oh, I can't tell what it is, if it's like pain, like I have to go to the bathroom because I ate hot wings, or if it's contractions. So I go to the bathroom and then they still keep coming and I'm like, all right, this is cool. I started having contractions with my last pregnancy around the same time. So I was like, okay, cool. So this is happening. And the only thing is these contractions were not consistent. So they'd be like 3 minutes apart and then 10 minutes apart. And so I was able to get some rest in between. So then I wake up around 5 o'clock and I'm still having the contractions. So at this point, they're about 6 to 7 minutes apart. They seem to be pretty regular. And then they start becoming irregular again. So I called labor and delivery, letting them know I've been in labor since 1:30 in the morning, and at this point it was about 9, and the last time I gave birth it was like 7 and I was already 5 centimeters dilated. So I was like, well, I'm gonna stay home as long as I can because if I want a Vbac, it's best to do that. As long as it's okay with your doctor, of course. But this is my second Vbac, so that's why I was like trying to stay away from the doctor for as long as I could. I tell them that my contractions aren't that consistent. They're averaging about 6 to 7 minutes apart, which means I'm having 3 minutes apart to 10 minutes and like in betweens. So they tell me they need to be more consistent for 2 hours straight. So I was like, okay, that sucks because I wanted to go to the hospital. I want to get checked because I want to see if I progressed since last night, which I was 2 centimeters dilated. So we're going about our day. I'm still with my kids and my husband, and we are trying to figure out what we're gonna do because my husband took the day off and my family did because they thought they were gonna have to watch the kids because I was in labor. So it's like midday, and then my contractions are still not completely regular, but they're getting stronger. And so I'm like, let's go walk in Target. So we go to Target and I'm walking around and they're starting to be like way more consistent and like all the time. Like I'm barely being able to walk through the store. So I was like, okay, this is good. Then I end up taking my kids to my parents' house and they're like, you should definitely go to the hospital because they're pretty consistent and they're hurting you a lot. So we leave my kids with my parents and then we go to my house so that we can get the bags and stuff ready. And then I also still had to call labor and delivery to see if they would accept me to check if I was progressing. So we went home, I had a little bit of food, and then called labor and delivery and they said to come in. So I get there and I'm like, okay, hopefully like this is good. Hopefully I progressed, and I'm feeling really good because my last pregnancy went pretty quick in the first stages of like getting going. So I'm like, maybe I'm like 7 centimeters or 6 centimeters and they're gonna keep me, we're gonna have the baby. And then I get there and they have me undress, get on a gown, and then they check me and I'm only 2.5 centimeters dilated. And I was freaking bummed. Like, I was so upset. Like, I thought I was more. And to think that you're so progressed because of the longevity of these contractions and like they're getting more painful and then you're just like hit with nothing. It was a real bummer and I got really upset. I was like, this isn't happening. Like, I want to have the baby already. Like, it freaking hurts. I'm having these contractions all day. They have us stay there and they're monitoring my contractions and they're really irregular. Like, sometimes they're 3 minutes, sometimes they're 8 minutes, and then they're just like slowing down a lot. And I was like, oh my God, seriously? This sucks. And they send me home. And so me and my husband went to go eat at this ramen place that was across the street from the hospital, and we'd been wanting to try it, but I was like, maybe if I make it spicy, that'll start things up or something. So we went there and we had our soup, and as I'm sitting there, like, the contractions are just like, they're getting more painful and they're getting closer together, more consistent, and we had just left the hospital, so it's like, what the heck, man? We go to my family's house and I'm having my contractions there with the kids and everybody's there, and my parents like, are you sure you can't go to the hospital, kind of thing. But I told them that I have to wait until they're more regular, just like they told me before. And so I'm waiting and waiting, and they're just super painful and they're not regular at all. So we just take my kids home. It's like around, we probably went home around 7 or something. And then we put them to bed, and my sister lives with us, luckily. So she's home, and it was Friday night. We put them to bed, and my contractions just like kick into gear. They are strong. They are still not regular though. So I'm like, I can't do anything if they're not regular. They told me not to come back pretty much until they are more regular. And so I'm trying to sleep on the couch, this couch, and I would just wake up with excruciating contractions and fall back asleep barely, and then just wake up again to the contractions. And then we try to go to bed, and I'm keep waking up to these contractions. They're super painful. I'm like crying every time I get one because I'm over it. It's been almost 24 hours and I'm still having contractions, and now they're super painful but completely irregular. They never got regular, and I'm just like, I couldn't deal with it anymore. We're laying in the bed and I called the doctors. I was like, I'm having these contractions. I've been in labor since 1 o'clock in the morning. And then I start having a contraction while I'm on the phone, and I start crying, and she's hearing me, and she's just like telling me to breathe or whatever. And she was like, were you in this much pain the first time you came in? And I said, no, not at all. And she says, okay, come in. So I go in, and we're waiting for a room. I'm having contractions still, and they're not so close together still, but they're just random, and I'm just having very strong contractions. We go into the room, and then I have to undress again. They check me again, and I'm like praying that I am more progressed, because I don't know what I would do if I wasn't. I would just probably have told them I wanted a C-section, to be honest. because it was super bad. She checks me and I'm 7 centimeters, and I was like, oh my God, I want to cry. I was so happy, so relieved that it was almost here. Like, I was almost done. And then of course they ask me if I'm planning to get an epidural or whatever, if I'm planning on doing something. And she said that if I've made it this far, she thinks I can continue without the epidural or medicine at all, because once you hit 8 centimeters or something, you can't get the any more like medication, not including the epidural, because it can slow the baby's breathing. So I was like, screw it. Like, I wanted to do this natural, let's freaking do it. So I'm having the contractions and I'm like doing the rocking thing, and she's telling me to rock back and forth. And at one point because my legs are starting to hurt because I've been up so long, she asked me if I wanted to bend over on the bed. So I get on the bed on my knees, and the bed head is up, so I'm like this on the headrest, but I'm leaning forward and my back is hurting. Like, it feels like a clamp or something. Like, I can't really bend forward. And I was like, oh no, 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 no. I hope this isn't like a back labor kind of thing, because I heard those are the worst. And I just end up standing up again because it hurts too much. So I'm standing, I'm rocking, and then I feel like I have to poop, or like so much pressure down below. And I was just like, oh, I feel this pressure. Like, I feel like I have to go to the bathroom. And she's like, okay, that's good. That's what you're supposed to feel. I go to the restroom, but I don't poop, obviously, because I don't have to poop. But I pee a lot. I get checked again, and I'm 10 centimeters, and my bag is bulging. So she sticks, while she's checking me, she tells me to push when I feel a contraction, and then my bag breaks. So my water is broken all over the place, and I could feel it, and it's gross. And like, I don't want to start pushing because it hurts in my back, and obviously I'm feeling crampy. And so eventually we start pushing, and I'm pushing for like an hour, I think. And then all of a sudden, everything shifts, and they're like starting to freak out because she's coming out, but then they just, like, everything gets very intense. The nurse jumps on me and starts pushing on my stomach, like trying to help me get the baby out. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, this didn't happen last time. And I'm kind of scared, and I'm like pushing with all my might. She comes out, and then they take her away to the other side of the room, and I don't hear her cry, and I still don't hear her cry. And then she's not crying, and they come and they start talking to me, telling me that when she was inside, when she was coming out, she got stuck under my pubic bone. So that's when she jumped on me and started to push the baby out. And while that happens, they notice the cord is wrapped around her neck. When they go to take off the cord, it snaps. So she's without oxygen for I don't know how long. They said it was 30 seconds, I'm not sure. And then she starts crying, and then we're like, okay. She's crying and screaming and crying, and they just have her, they're checking her to make sure that she's okay. It was really, really scary. We didn't know what was going on, obviously, until after, and my husband wasn't really looking down there this time because he didn't want to, so he didn't see anything. But he saw that blood, like, was everywhere pretty much. And they were checking her because they thought she may have broken her collarbone on the way out. And they weren't sure. They didn't seem like, they said she was okay because they were able to pull her arms. Eventually they say that she's good, like she's fine. And then they're like doing whatever they're doing to her, and then they put her on, laying on me silently, just awake. And we're just laying there, and my mom comes in, and It was just really scary. The next day, we have to, you know, all night they come in and they check and they take blood and they do things. And the next day, the pediatrician came in. They thought she was okay because they were able to pull her arms and she was like lifting up. And sometimes when they break their collarbones, they can't even move their arm at all. But she was moving her arm, so they thought she was fine. So the next day, the pediatrician comes in and they check her. They evaluate her like normal, and then they check her arm, her collarbone, and the doctor's like, I can't tell. Let's get an x-ray. So we got an x-ray. So she did have a broken collarbone. So we had to we kept it inside of her onesies pretty much for a while, like for at least a whole month. And then, yeah, that was it. We went home. She's been fine. She's a beautiful baby. And she has just been a great baby. And yeah. What I got from it is that don't ever compare one pregnancy or labor and delivery to another because they won't be the same. My first one I had a C-section, my next one I had a Vbac, and it was pretty easy. Well, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't dramatic like this one, that's for sure. And then this one, complete 180. So take your pregnancies and labors as completely different things. They will never be the same. And my story is kind of scary, but it ends up okay. So yeah, that was my birth story for this little one here. If you want to hear about my others, let me know in the comments below or give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you never miss a video. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Bye.